Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a deep, strategic look at developer interviews, but we're skipping the coding challenges for now. We are focusing squarely on that HR segment.
That's right. We've got this really interesting document here. It outlines 20 model Q&A pairs for beginner-level software developers.
Yeah.
And, most people think the HR interview is just about soft skills, but for a tech role, it's actually pretty structured.
Right.
We need to go beyond just like memorizing nice answers. We're here to decode the underlying strategy. What specific technical proof, what process details are interviewers really listening for?
Exactly. Think of this deep dive as your roadmap for, well, strategic communication in that setting. The source material we have breaks down how to talk about everything, your core tech skills, your daily workflow, even self-management, and yeah, how you fit into a team. Our mission today is to pull out that actionable language, the stuff that tells the hiring manager, okay, this person gets the job, not just the code. Let's unpack this. And maybe start with the absolute foundation. How do you establish technical credibility right off the bat? That first question, tell me about yourself. It feels like filler sometimes, doesn't it? But in this context, the model answer uses it almost like a tactical strike. How does this suggested opening immediately define the developer's value?
Well, it instantly defines their ecosystem. It doesn't just say, oh, I write code. It's specific. I'm a software developer focusing on .NET and front-end tech like Angular. Just that one sentence, it places the candidate firmly in the world of, enterprise web applications.
And it's the scope too, right? It then broadens out to API development, UI design, database management.
Exactly. By adding those, they've shown they don't just know one little piece. They get the full stack flow, building and deploying a real product. They're signaling, I'm a builder, not just someone rendering bits on a screen.
Okay, so you've defined the stack. The next logical question is usually about languages. What specific language choices in our source material signal that the candidate is genuinely prepared for that full stack world?
The key here is strategic priority. They lead with C#, TypeScript, JavaScript, because that matches the .NET Angular stack they just mentioned.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But the really critical additions are SQL shows, you get data persistence, and then that final sort of strategic mention. I also have basic knowledge of Python.
That Python bit. Why add a supplementary skill like that? Doesn't it kind of distract from the main C# focus? Is it risky?
Not really, no. It signals you're adaptable, but without over-promising. It says, hey, I know Python exists. I can probably read it, maybe do some scripting or basic data tasks. But it doesn't imply you're about to jump ship from C#. It subtly broadens your potential usefulness to the team.
Right, okay. Now, moving from theory to practice. The favorite project question, this is where a lot of beginners, I think, stumble. They give vague answers. What was the really specific project cited in these model answers?
It was building a real-time chat application. Now, lots of people build chat apps, sure. But the power is in the tech mentioned right after. .NET Web API and Angular with SignalR.
Okay, let's pause on SignalR for a sec. Why name that specific, pretty advanced framework? Isn't it better maybe just to say, I use standard APIs or something? What if the company uses raw WebSockets?
That's a fair point, but mentioning SignalR shows maturity, I think. Two things, really. First, it shows you understand modern apps need async, event-driven communication. You grasp persistent connections. Second, it shows you know how to pick and use powerful tools to solve complex problems smartly, instead of like reinventing the wheel with basic polling. It proves applied knowledge, not just theory. Shows you're ready for, well, modern complexity.
That makes a lot of sense. It shows you get the deeper architecture needed for responsiveness today. Okay, so you've established what you build and what tools you use. Now the interviewer needs to understand how you actually work day to day. Let's talk workflow. Starting a new project. What kind of process does a candidate need to show they follow?
Structure. That's the key. Interviewers want to see a systematic approach, not just random coding. The source breaks it down nicely. 5 steps. First, really understand the requirements. Second, set up the project structure, define endpoints, UI components, whatever. Third, implement the core features. Fourth, testing and deployment.
Right, standard stuff. But what's the crucial piece of methodology often missed by beginners that needs to be there from the start?
Version control. Git, usually.
Yeah.
The model answers really emphasize that using Git isn't just the last step before you merge. It has to be integrated throughout the process. That tells the interviewer immediately you understand shared code bases, collaboration, professional etiquette. Version control isn't an afterthought. It's like the backbone of how pros work.
All right, moving into our second segment. Let's talk agility, self-management. Being a developer now means you're always learning, right? So when asked about continuous learning, How does the model answer show active commitment, not just sort of passive interest?
It lists a whole portfolio of learning methods. It's not enough to just say, oh, I read Hacker News.
Hmm.
The model answer mixes rigorous stuff, like actually following official documentation updates, which is vital for core changes with more accessible things like YouTube tutorials and tech blogs.
Okay, but what methods really set apart the proactive learner? The ones that show real initiative?
The active ones, building small side projects,
Mm.
or contributing to open source. Those activities show you're taking what you read and actually using it, stress testing it, real code. That speeds up practical learning way faster than just reading, proves commitment to hands-on learning.
Okay, now troubleshooting. When you hit a tricky bug or a coding challenge, the interviewer isn't always after the solution, right? They want the methodology. Can you detail that logical process the source recommends?
Yeah, you need to show systematic thinking, like a funnel. First step, and lots of beginners skip this when they panic, is just understand and reproduce the issue consistently. Can't fix what you can't reliably trigger? Second, check the basics. Logs, console output. Use the tools you have. Third, break it down. Smaller, isolated parts. Debug step by step.
What if someone panics and jumps straight to Googling or Stack Overflow before doing those first steps? What does that signal?
It signals a lack of control, maybe?
Mm.
The model answer shows control because only after exhausting those internal steps does it mention looking externally at official docs or Stack Overflow.
Mm.
That sequence proves you tried to figure it out analytically first. Shows resilience, problem-solving discipline, not just relying on instant external help.
Let's unpack the strategic framing of personal traits. Strengths and weaknesses. Strengths are usually easier, detail-oriented, learn fast, clean code, good communicator. Okay. But the weakness question, how does the model answer navigate that tricky territory?
Right, the model uses a classic one perfectionism. Sometimes I spend too much time perfecting small details. But crucially, it immediately pivots. It's not presented as a fatal flaw. It's framed as ongoing growth. The vital follow-up is the mitigation. But I'm learning to balance quality with deadlines.
So the goal isn't pretending you're flawless, but showing self-awareness and that you're actively managing it.
Precisely. It turns a potential negative into a positive signal. Shows you're self-aware, you understand business needs like deadlines, and you're adjusting. That kind of self-reflection, that's actually really appealing to a hiring manager.
Okay, let's tackle pressure. Tight deadlines. How does that interact with quality control? How do you deliver on time without, shipping messy code?
For deadlines, the model answer hits two key actions. Prioritization focus on high-impact features, and, this is critical, early risk communication. If a deadline looks shaky, you flag it early. Don't wait until the last minute. And for maintainability, which really separates pros from novices, the answer lists specific habits. Clean code practices, meaningful naming, comments where needed, design patterns, modular code, reusable components.
Why is meaningful naming so fundamental? It seems almost too basic to mention.
Oh, it's maybe the highest leverage thing you can do. If your variable or function names are garbage, the next person or you, 6 months later, spends ages just trying to figure out what you meant. Meaningful naming is like cheap, high-impact documentation baked right in, makes the code accessible, reduces future bugs from misunderstandings. It's huge.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Team fit. That question about working alone versus in a team, it feels like a bit of a minefield. What's the smart path there?
It's definitely a balance test. Are you a lone wolf or a team player? The ideal answer acknowledges independence. Sure, I enjoy owning tasks. But then it pivots quickly to the value of collaboration. The benefits listed are pretty universal. Better ideas from diverse input, faster problem solving, more learning. You confirm you can work alone, but you actively choose collaboration because it leads to better results.
And conflict is part of collaboration, inevitably. The model answer used a specific anecdote. What made that example work so well?
Well, the conflict wasn't personal. It was technical. A disagreement over API design strategy. Framing it technically takes the ego out of it, and the resolution method is the key takeaway. I suggested we each present pros and cons, then decide based on project requirements. He shows objectivity, analytical thinking, and commitment to the best outcome, even if it wasn't your first idea.
Right. Speaking of structured teamwork development methodologies, Agile, Scrum, if you're a beginner dev, you absolutely have to grasp these. How should you summarize them? Simply, but, accurately.
Keep it high level, but nail the specifics. Agile. It's a flexible approach. Work happens in iterations called sprints. Simple enough. Then you prove you've actually done it by listing the ceremonies. Daily stand-ups, sprint planning, retrospectives. Shows you know the rhythm of modern teams, how your work fits in.
Now we get to the pitch. Connecting your ambition to the company's goals. Let's say you've researched them, you know they value innovation, continuous learning. How do you weave that into your answers about why you want this specific job?
You mirror their language, essentially. If they talk about innovative software solutions, you talk about how your technical and learning agility fits right in with that fast pace. And crucially, your future goals, which the source also covers, they need to be ambitious, sure, but team-focused.
What are the right kinds of ambitious goals for a beginner? You probably don't want to say, I want the lead architect job in a year.
No, probably not. The best goals show growth within the team structure. Things like becoming a senior full-stack dev over time, taking on more complex projects. And the source mentions key strategic additions like potentially mentoring junior developers down the line or contributing to architectural decisions. That shows you're thinking long-term contribution, leadership potential, not just climbing the ladder for yourself.
And finally, that last question when they turn it around. Do you have any questions for us? This is your final shot to show you're strategically engaged, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is where you flip the script, show you're genuinely invested. The suggested questions are good because they're forward-thinking, asking about the team structure specialized, full-stack generalists, and asking what tech they're focusing on for upcoming projects. Those aren't just generic questions. They show you're already trying to picture yourself fitting into their future plans. Hashtag tag tag outro.
So after digging through these 20 answers, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? These beginner HR interviews for developers, they're way more structured than they seem. They're designed to confirm not just what you know, frameworks, languages, but your process, how you learn, how you troubleshoot logically, how you collaborate. The winning approach seems to blend those hard technical specifics mentioning SignalR, C# with those crucial soft skills like communicating risk early or framing weaknesses as growth opportunities.
Yeah, and connecting back to team readiness, that detail around version control, that's a huge takeaway. It's not enough just to say, I use Git. Okay. The source really stresses that being team ready means knowing platforms like GitHub or Azure DevOps, sure, but more importantly, it's the process. Regular commits with meaningful messages. Following established branching strategies, that operational discipline, that's fundamental. It shows you get how to work professionally in a shared code base.
That detail about branching strategies really does hit home. It shows a level of process maturity. Okay, so we've analyzed the strategic answers to help you land the job. But here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. Think back to that early question, what inspired you? The model answer was about creating something useful, but how deeply connected is your personal motivation, that initial spark, to the specific tech stack and the type of work the job actually requires? Nurturing that genuine connection, that deep alignment between your passion and their needs, that might be the hidden layer underneath all the technical talk that turns a good candidate into a truly compelling hire.